Man, the East is looking wide open this year. You see those games this week? Upsets, clutch plays. Some teams are really exceeding expectations.
Yeah, definitely some surprises.
Let's dive into it. We've got a whole stack of game summaries here, and we're going to focus on the Eastern Conference.
Right, sound good.
First up, the Miami Heat. They took down the New Orleans Pelicans 119 to 108. Jimmy Butler had himself a night, 28 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists.
Wow.
But it wasn't just Butler. I mean, that first quarter, back and forth, really kept you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, Miami's really looking good. I think they're really emphasizing that ball movement early on. I mean, you see it in Butler's assist. He's not just a scorer, he's a playmaker, setting up his teammates.
Right.
And we can't forget Bam Adebayo, 20 points, 12 rebounds. That guy's a beast. Miami's depth, that's what makes them a real contender in the East.
All right, speaking of depth, Toronto Raptors pulled off a pretty big win against the Brooklyn Nets, 130 to 113.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
Pascal Siakam, he was on fire, 35 points, 10 rebounds. And Fred VanVleet, another 25 points, 8 assists for him.
They were unstoppable.
Yeah.
Their effective field goal percentage was incredible. They really exploited the Nets' defense, hitting shots from everywhere. It's impressive to see them dominate like that, especially it's a team with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
Now, this next one was close. Philadelphia 76ers, they lost a nail-biter to the Sacramento Kings, 113 to 107.
Oof, yeah. That was a tough one for Philly.
What happened there?
Well, Joel Embiid had a solid game. Don't get me wrong, 32 points, 12 rebounds.
Yeah, he's always a force.
But the Kings, they really exposed a weakness in the Sixers' offense.
Yeah.
They basically dared anyone but Embiid to shoot.
Interesting.
And then there's De'Aaron Fox. Man, he was clutch in those final minutes.
I know. Can't forget about those last few minutes. Fox was unreal. Almost single-handedly won them that game. But it kind of makes you wonder, are the Sixers maybe relying a little too much on Embiid in crunch time?
It's a good question. To go deep in the playoffs, they'll need to come up with some more diverse offensive strategies for sure. But hey, let's zoom out a bit. Let's talk about some of these teams overall. How about those Sixers? They've been making deep playoff runs. They got Joel Embiid, who's a monster. But are they too reliant on him?
Yeah, I mean, they've got Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris. You know, they've got some other talent on that roster.
Right. Those guys have the potential to be real difference makers. Philly's got strong defense, no doubt. But like we saw in that Kings game, consistency is crucial. They got to hit those big shots when it matters. And then the big elephant in the room, Embiid's health.
Okay, let's head down south. Atlanta Hawks. They've got that exciting young core led by Trae Young. You know, I saw this guy play in college, and honestly, I did not think he'd be this good in the NBA.
Yeah, he's definitely exceeding expectations.
Big time.
The Hawks, they've got a dynamic offense. And when their three-point shooting is on, forget about it. They're tough to beat. DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, those guys are showing a lot of promise. But they need to work on that defense if they want to be considered real contenders.
Defense wins championships.
That's what they say.
You say the Hawks are on the rise, but they just can't seem to beat the top teams. Is Trae Young really the leader they need?
It's the question, isn't it? I mean, he's got the talent, but leadership, it's got to be more than just scoring points.
Right.
He needs to make his teammates better, elevate their game, and they got to step up on defense.
Okay, let's talk about a team in a different phase. The Utah Jazz. Rebuilding, yeah, but they got some interesting young players. What should Jazz fans be watching for?
Walker Kessler.
Oh, yeah.
He's a young center, tons of potential. If he can become a reliable rim protector, rebounder, that'd be huge for them.
Yeah, for sure.
And they've got Will Hardy, solid coach, good at developing young talent.
All right, and we can't forget about the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic, man, electrifying player. But the Mavericks, they've been struggling with consistency. Now they've added Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson too. Is that going to help them or just create more problems?
That's the big question, right? I mean, Doncic, Irving, Thompson, all incredible offensive players.
Yeah.
But can they share the ball? Will they play defense?
Right.
If they can find that balance, watch out. But there are definitely some question marks.
Okay, let's get back to some of these game summaries. How about the Atlanta Hawks? They took on the Denver Nuggets. High-scoring game. The Nuggets won 139 to 120.
Jokic was unstoppable. Triple-double, 28 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists. And Jamal Murray, lights out from three. The Nuggets offense is a machine.
Sounds like the Hawks just couldn't keep up. How about the Dallas Mavericks? They went up against the Houston Rockets. That one went to the Rockets, 110 to 99.
Jalen Green was the story there. Exploded for 30 points, 7 rebounds, led the Rockets to victory. Even more impressive, they held Doncic to just 22 points. The Rockets are a young team, but they're looking really good.
Yeah, that's a tough loss for Dallas. All right, Utah Jazz, they took on the New York Knicks. Knicks won this one 119 to 103.
Jalen Brunson was fantastic for the Knicks, 35 points, 9 assists. But the key, their defense on Lauri Markkanen held him to 20 points. Yeah. Not easy to do. The Knicks, they're a gritty team. They always play hard.
Speaking of gritty teams, Chicago Bulls went up against the Washington Wizards, and the Wizards dominated 125 to 107.
Yeah, the Bulls just couldn't hang on to the ball. 20 turnovers, you can't win like that. Jordan Poole was on fire for the Wizards, 30 points. He's becoming a real scoring threat for them.
Last game of the night, the Orlando Magic. They faced off against the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons won 105 to 96.
Cade Cunningham was the driving force for the Pistons, 24 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. He does it all. But the real story was the Pistons' defense. Stifling in the second half. The Magic just couldn't score.
So we've seen some incredible individual performances, some surprising results. What are some of the bigger trends emerging from these games?
Depth. The teams that are winning, they're getting contributions from their whole roster, not just 1 or 2 stars.
I've noticed that too, and it seems like the teams that are struggling, they're just too predictable on offense. They need to find more ways to score, or they're going to get figured out.
Exactly. Another trend, the return of defense. We're seeing a lot of teams committed to playing tough, physical defense.
Yeah.
And it's making a difference.
Yeah, it's great to see teams really embracing defense again. Makes for some exciting games. But before we wrap up, I want to hear your take on something. Out of all the individual performances we talked about, which one really stood out to you?
Oh, man, that's a tough one.
Okay.
There are so many. But I got to go with Pascal Siakam's game against the Nets. 35 points, 10 rebounds, going head-to-head with Durant and Irving. That was a statement game.
Yeah, he was incredible that night. So I think it's time to turn it over to our listeners now. With everything we've talked about, which Eastern Conference team do you think has the best shot at a deep playoff run? What have you seen in these games that makes you believe in a particular team?
That's what's so fun about the NBA, right? It's still early.
Yeah.
Anything can happen, but keep an eye on Miami. They got the depth, the veteran leadership, and a system that really seems to work.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the NBA's Eastern Conference. It's been awesome breaking down these games and figuring out what separates the contenders from the pretenders.
It's been a pleasure, and remember, folks, the season is a marathon. Watch how these teams adapt and improve. That's where the real excitement is.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to tune in next time for another deep dive into a brand new topic. Until then, keep exploring and stay curious.